The legal system of Islam and the basis of Islamic law is the Holy Book, the Quran. The Quran provides a guideline for moral behavior and as well as provides insight into the types of punishments that deviating from moral behavior may result in. Another thing to keep in mind is that in the Islamic Empire, there was no separation between religious life and daily life. It was all religious life. The Quran and the belief system regulated how you acted in public, as well as how you acted at home and private. So, public life and private life, religious life and daily life, it was all the same. It was all dictated by the Quran and by the religious beliefs of Islam. Slavery provided a unique problem in Islam because slavery existed before Islam came and was often a practice of the areas that they conquered. Slavery was common in Islamic areas, but it was discouraged by the Quran. The general accepted rule was slavery was allowed but frowned upon, and you should be humane to your slaves and provide for their basic needs. Family was at the center of Islamic daily life. It was the most important institution outside of the religious faith. Men's role was to provide for the family, provide shelter, food, money that was necessary. Women cared for the home and they cared for the children. Women could own property outside marriage, and if she was divorced by her husband, she did receive her dowry property back. And they are entitled to just and fair treatment. You could not abuse your spouse. Now, marriages were often arranged by the parents, and men could have more than one wife. In fact, according to Islamic law, men could have as many as 4 wives as long as he could provide for them equally. So if he bought a house for one, he had to buy a house for all 4. Family was important in a lot of ways because there was this idea or belief that it was in the family that children learned their devotion to God and to submit to God, and parents were held responsible for the religious instruction of the young. It was said that if a child fails to submit to the will of God, to worship Allah, then the parents will pay the price for that, both on earth and in the afterlife. Another key thing to understand about Islam is their reliance and necessity of education. In Islamic areas, they believed that education was critically important because people needed to be able to read the Word of God in the Quran and the language that Jibril gave it to Muhammad, which was in Arabic. So the government supported the creation of public schools as well as public libraries for the repository of knowledge. Again, they believed that everyone should be able to read Arabic so that they could read the Word of God as given to Muhammad, and that information and knowledge was vital and important and should be protected, and thus creating schools for the people and libraries so that knowledge could be preserved. Another thing that's really important to understand is that the education of the young was not just limited to the classroom at the public school. The family played an important role in the education of the children. And if you remember earlier when I was talking about the importance of the family institution, I said that if a child failed to be a good Muslim, then the parents bared some of that responsibility. And that was really a belief that it was up to the family to educate the young into the religious beliefs. But so is the mosque. The mosque, which was the place of worship, is where young men could go and learn about the Quran and learn about what it meant to be a good Muslim in this Islamic empire. So the family and the mosque assume responsibility, at least some, for educating the young. Young men that showed an aptitude or a skill to learn more had the ability to go to universities and study some subjects and at a higher level or in more advanced. There were opportunities for advanced studies in the areas of sciences, mathematics, and law. During this period, when Europe was floundering around lost in the Dark Ages, there was a great amount of technological, scientific, and mathematical invention going on in the Middle East, in these Islamic empires. They were performing surgeries, developing anesthesia, and coming up with new architectural designs and mathematical formulas, new ways of applying knowledge and mathematics that hadn't been discovered before. There was a lot of learning going on during this period. And in the study of law, keep in mind that law was synonymous with the Quran. So if you were studying law, you were also understudying the Quran. Some of the key cities for study in the Islamic Empire included Cordoba in Spain and Timbuktu in Mali.